Good afternoon. It's right around the solstice, and I'm having a little bit of a problem here with the Japanese beetles. This is a fig tree, a persimmon tree, and you can see where they've eaten out that leaf. And they're doing that at quite a few places, which I'm not very pleased about. But it's early in the process, so I'm going to get that hormone I mentioned in my last video that's available at Home Depot. It's a hormone trap for Japanese beetles, and it's a pheromone trap, a sexual pheromone which attracts them, and they get slipped into this pouch, a trap, by the thousands, and it alleviates any problems that you're having in your yard. So I highly recommend it. I use it every year. Just haven't gotten around to getting it yet, but now I see the need, because they are indeed eating away at some of the leaves. Well, I'm going to show you my final mix for my potting soil this time, and ground soil. I can use it both ways because it's rich enough in organic matter and in earth and in topsoil that I can use it both in my containers, for my container figs, and in ground. Now, this is a tree that I transplanted about a couple weeks ago from one location to another, and I have this because this is a little bit of a low area, so I have this one in a raised bed right now with my strawberries, which will be fine. I've grown many things in raised beds before, in raspberries, strawberries, it doesn't matter. If you remember from one of my videos in the past, I had a fairly large persimmon tree here that I took away so that I could grow. I have plenty of persimmon trees and plenty of spots. Okay, so they're all over the place. So this is a good spot for a fig tree. And because I didn't mulch, you will notice in one of my winter dieback videos, there's 3 of them in a series, that the fig tree that was here, which was a little Celeste, died because it was completely in the open and exposed to the fierce winter winds that come across here out of the northwest in 7A. So this is a little tree that survived. Part of it died. It was in the front yard, and I wanted to move it into another place and plant another tree there, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But this is Angelo's Dark, which was a gift by my friend Vito up in New York, and so I value it very much. And I like it too. It's a hardy Chicago type, a good variant of that. And you can see even this little tree has quite a few figs on it. And I think I'll let them go to taste a few, especially since it lost half of its volume in scaffolding. So I'll let a couple, I'll pluck a few of those off when I get around to it. But let me go over to here, since I've completed this mix almost. And I call this my, I'll call this my Goldilocks mix. It's just right for me. Now, everybody's got their own preferences, of course. And then there's a lot of flexibility in this hobby of growing figs, or organic gardening, or gardening in general. And so how many different mixes could there be? I don't know. Thousands. An infinite variety of mixtures. Just like numbers. But this is mine. And you can go over my past videos. If you like what you see in containers and in the ground, then you might imagine that you would want to try to replicate this to some degree, especially the newcomers, the newbies, if they want to try and get some grounding and a starting place, a place of reference established for themselves from someone who's already been through all this. This might be something that you would want to replicate. I always say the proof is in the pudding, the fig pudding. Well, look at the videos. If you like what you see, you might want to do this. This is what I do characteristically, almost invariably. But there are little variations. Like right now, I need to add a bucket. This is a 5-gallon bucket, and I need to add a 5-gallon bucket of, I'm going to use Miracle Grow potting mix because I ran out. But the consistency of this is perfect for me, and I can feel it. It's heavy. It's got a lot of topsoil in it. The topsoil was aged for over a year to eliminate any possibility of nematodes. I like topsoil. Watch my last video, which I posted a little while ago, and you will hear a lot of things in that video, and it will explain some of this so I don't have to be redundant. But I like my mix to be heavier than just potting mix. I don't like just potting mix. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mentioned here that I mulched this. This is something that I rarely do, is mulch. I know it's controversial, but I've been doing this all my life, and that's what I do. I don't mulch. I very rarely mulch. But when I transplant, especially around the solstice with a high sun overhead, I'm going to try to preserve moisture, and so I put a little bit of they're just grass cuttings, okay? And you can see that this tree is just picked up beautifully. It's been here for several weeks. So I don't mulch my container figs ever. If you look at all of my videos, you will never see any mulch. And one of the reasons why is this. See, my soil is heavy enough with having real soil in it, topsoil, and having a lot of rotted manure in it, and compost from the kitchen, well-rotted compost. It's rich enough that, and it's got a lot of organic matter from that organic garden soil, Miracle Grow organic garden soil, which is full of organic material. Let me just grab a handful of it to show you. It's all organic. Look how heavily organic that is. Okay, a lot of humus. Okay, and so because of that, it almost is a mulch. It's its own mulch. Here that came from the soil that I kept over a year, and you'll see that there are no root knot nematodes on those roots. Do you see that? None at all. It's perfect, and it's black and it's dead, and that's the whole reason for keeping the soil over a year, so that you're guaranteed that there are no nematodes in the soil when you add it to your potting mix. And so this is fairly heavy. It retains moisture much better than just potting mix, and therefore you don't really need the mulch as much or at all. And there's so much organic material in here, and there's going to be a little more when I add the potting mix. There's so much of it that it is almost its own mulch. It's not necessary. And I like my container figs to breathe. I want them to breathe naturally. And I like the grow bags too, because they breathe all around the edges. You know, I want my figs to breathe. Okay, and that's how they, I think, turn into very vibrant specimens, beautiful fig specimens in your collection. They want to be able to breathe, and mulching tends to suffocate them, okay? And it's hard to regulate the moisture, too, when you have the mulch in there, as far as I'm concerned, because you can't always tell. I can look at a glance. I can just glance down at my trees, at my container figs, and I know when they're dry, even if I don't lift them, but I almost always invariably lift them to make sure that they're not too water saturated, and to make sure they're just moist, just right. And when I water them, I give them plenty of water, and then I wait a couple days. It depends on what time of year it is. This time of year, sometimes I have to water them every day, even with this mixture, but generally it's every 2 days or 3. Whereas if it was just potting mix, I'd have to water them for sure every single day around the solstice. And that's a lot of work. That's labor intensive. That's labor I don't really need or want. I have enough to do. I can barely keep up, you know, as I'm growing older. It's very difficult to maintain all of what I have in the yard, and I have a very large yard, and I have a lot of things that I have to do. Okay, I mean, from blueberries to strawberries. That's a nice one right there. I just picked these this morning. I had a wonderful breakfast of homemade cereal. I should really make a video about that. I make my own cereal. Did you see the prices of cereal today? Well, I've been doing it for 30 years, my wife and I, more than that. And we go to an organic Amish store in Pennsylvania, and we buy all the ingredients and we make our own cereals. I don't want to get off on a tangent on that, but I love adding the blueberries and the strawberries depending on what's getting ripe at any particular time of the year. But let me get back to this mix. So it has much better water retentive qualities. The nutrients don't wash out as much as with a potting mix. Potting mix is so light and airy that the water just goes right through it and it just washes all of the nutrients out. And so you have to keep adding more nutrients all the time. And I do use a tea. You're noticing my video collection. Tea, anyone. If you want to see how I do give them manure tea all the time, I water them. And that gives them a constant flow of nutrients, but it's not too rich and it won't burn. Okay, and I don't have to keep adding a lot of other nutrients as often because it's a heavier mixture, and they don't blow down as easy. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why I really love my mixtures for my fig trees. So go back through my videos and take a look at my container figs and see if you like what you see, and you might want to try this. Now, you might want to try any variation of this. Maybe you don't want to put as much topsoil in as I do. I put quite a bit, or as much. You may not have any kitchen well composted manure, so don't add it. You know, add some of this. You know, some of the Miracle-Gro organic garden soil. You may want to add a little more potting mix. You may want to add a little less. You may not want to put as much lime that I put. You know, here's a close-up. Some people have asked me about this. I love this stuff, and I use it all the time. So I'm giving you a good look at it, and it tells you right there if you read it. I don't know if you can, but you might want to read that for vegetables, plants, for fruits. It tells you what to do, you know, and it's pulverized material that comes out of a mine, which is it was essentially a volcano. Okay, and it has lots of trace nutrients that it gives back gradually to your plants. I like using it, always have. And so here it is. I want you to see the consistency of it. And again, I'm going to add a 5-gallon bucket as soon as I get it later on tonight of potting mix. Any potting mix will do, but I'll probably use that again because it has moisture retaining qualities to it, as you can see there, moisture control. It prevents too much watering and too little watering, so that's always helpful. Okay, you need every little edge you can get. But this is my Goldilocks formula that I truly do love. I just planted a tree. I just planted an improved Celeste, and I think I'll pause it and walk over, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. Hi there, I'm back. So, I'm going to finish planting this tree. I planted this tree here this morning using the soil mix that I used, minus a little bit of that Miracle-Gro, which I don't need in this situation. Remember, it's a variable mix. And if you don't have the well-rotted horse manure, then you can buy some cow manure, you know, at Home Depot or places like that, at garden centers, and it will serve you very well. So remember, it's a variable recipe, if you will. Okay, so I planted this. It was in a small container, too small. I showed it in the video, in my last video. And this one it's improved Celeste. And it says, "Oh, work not." Now the importance of that is that very often a work is substituted by many of the nurseries for improved Celeste. Not a good thing, because they are very different. Although they have the same parent, Celeste, in their lineage, they are different figs altogether. And both are very good. Improved Celeste better. Okay, so this is distinguishable from that in the sense that it is not a Rourke. And I like a Rourke, and I have a Rourke, and I featured a Rourke in my last video. And I have it in my permanent collection in ground, and I like it. And I certainly recommend it. You know, the more the merrier sometimes, if they are suitable for your area. And in my area, a work is suitable. So I like it. But I like improved Celeste more. So I love this little tree. And so what I'm going to do is finish watering it. Now, notice that I should have showed you that the top of that tree, when this water goes down, I'll show you. The top of that tree is right where my fingertips are. And I'll show you in a little bit. And that is about 2 inches down from the top of the grass. You can see that. See that? If I put something over it, here, let's see. Let's use this piece of bamboo stick here. You can see that there's some space there. And the reason for that is okay, here we go. It's soaking down. Here is the top of the plant that was in the pot. And it was a little crooked, so I tilted it up. You always want to put them in the hole straight. And so there's a little bit sticking up. Here's the high point right there. See the roots? You can see that. But that's 2 inches down below. Now, some people don't like to do that. Other people like to go more deeply. Okay? But everybody has their own preferences. I like to have a little hole like that. And a pretty big hole, too. So that when it rains or when you water, the water can concentrate in this spot and soak down. A little bit of a drizzle will fill this entire hole up, and it will just keep soaking down all the way. And you always want to get good saturation when it rains or when you water. You don't want to water at the surface. You want to water deep, very deep, and not as often. That's how I do it. Anyway, for what it's worth, I always like interjecting that phrase in my videos. Okay, so I'm a little short on soil. I only have a little bit left here, so I'm going to have to probably get a little bit more. I'll just move this around. It's pretty good. I'll get a little more out of the wheelbarrow. There we go. But this tree's planted. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this branch up. See, it's sticking out. It's way out there. You see it? It's out of orbit. So I don't like branches that are out of orbit. So I'm going to tie that with some nylon string like this to the bigger branch, to the main leader. And I'm going to train it to go up like that so we can get good scaffolding. It takes sometimes 1 or 2, 3 years to get a perfectly formed fig. So what? You know, I love the final results. And so it's worth the effort that I expend. Okay, so I'm going to tie that up so you can see that. And it'd be such a cute little tree, isn't it? And I might cut out a couple of these these leaves are taking a little beating from being hardened off from the sun. And this is one of the trees that I had in an earlier video that was in the back room. I believe the title of the video was Everybody Has a Greenhouse, part 2 that I released not long ago. And this was one of those, and now it's finally getting its permanent spot in the ground. I'm happy to say, and I'm very excited. I love little trees. I love all my trees. I just love my trees. And this is going to be a very healthy and productive tree. And I did plant it so it's a little lower. You can see the top of right there, you can see the top of the container, what was in the container. So I need a little bit more soil, not much. And I'm all finished. Give it some more water, soak it real good. I put some water in the hole too before I planted this, so that there was water down there deep and it's saturated all along the sides and peripherally and deeper into the soil. So that moisture will slowly emanate, will slowly evaporate and move to the surface. And so if I go away for a week or something on vacation or something like that, I don't have to worry as much. Now I will mulch this because it's a newly transplanted fig tree and because it's the summer solstice. And so I will put some mulch, some grass clippings or something, any kind of mulch around it. I don't like using mulch because it's got chemicals added to it, so I usually like using natural things, whatever I can find, and not too much of it. I don't want to smother my tree. And it won't smother because it can breathe all the way around. It can breathe all the way around and down deep, and it's not going to be for long. Because when I come back, if I go away for a week, when I come back, I move it. I move the mulch, and I leave it open like that. And then I water, and I let the air aerate through the soil. And so I like it that way. I get better results. So that's it. Now, the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these rebarb, okay, and you can see how they're shaped, okay, and I'm going to pound them in. I'm going to pound them down deep right here and on the other side, okay. I have another one here, all right, and I'm going to do that too and put it over there and pound it down deep. And the reason why I'm going to do that is pretty obvious, so I don't run it over with my lawnmower, or nobody else does. When doing the trim or weed whacking, I don't like anything to get close to the trunk, and the slip of the weed whacker, and you can ruin a tree. So I like to protect it, and then I'll put little sticks like this around it too, just to make sure that if anybody else is doing the weed whacking or something like that, they look and make sure that they don't do any damage or cause any permanent injuries to that little tree. Okay, this one has a couple little figs on it. I might let one or two grow. It's a healthy tree. It's got a lot of roots. We'll see, but no more than that. Probably just one or two, none, maybe none. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this visit. I so enjoy your visits. I'm having a lot of fun, but I'm working hard today. I feel like I'm getting slightly disoriented from the heat. And the heat's starting to build, but the breeze is starting to flow, so that's good too. I'm just going to admire my fig trees for a while and go have a cup of coffee and relax. Something cold to drink. Finish pounding in my rebarbs. There it is. A beautiful little tree. And I'm going to have so much luck with that. Just like with these. It may take a few years, but as I mentioned, it's well worth the wait. With figs and with gardening, and certainly with fruit trees, things take time. A lot of time. But if you have everything growing in succession, the things that you've done 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 4 years ago, well, you're already enjoying the fruits, if you will, of your labor. And so it's okay. You can be patient and wait for the new things that you just put into order for the future. Okay. With that, good day.